I've been to Phil Murphy's home, the governor's home. I've been there. If this was in his neighborhood, they'd be digging up the streets now, changing the pipes going in. To say to poor people, stand in a hot sun, to say to poor people, you're going to get two cases with 24 bottles in it, and I'll see you next week, is really asinine and insulting. And you can say anything you want, but Governor, your actions is speaking louder than your words.
Some tough words there. That was in this studio at this time last night. That was Bishop Jethro James, a religious leader from Newark, New Jersey, one of the pastors of the New Jersey State Police. Large portions of Newark, the largest city and the most densely populated state in our union, remain without safe drinking water. Thus far, it's been the churches that have stepped up to solicit bottled water donations to replace the lead-contaminated water that flows through the taps in about 15,000 households. Governor Phil Murphy, who joins us in a moment, has not declared a state of emergency. There's no time for when those lead pipes, which bring the water in from under the street and into the homes, will be torn up and replaced. The city handed out filters. They didn't work, and 2 cases of bottled water every 2 weeks isn't enough for so many families. And thus far, the people who qualify for bottled water have been told, by and large, they got to come and get it. And for most, that has meant long lines in the hot sun. So, with us, as promised, on the broadcast tonight, New Jersey's Democratic Governor Phil Murphy. Governor, first off, thank you for seeing through your commitment and joining us tonight. And let's first off stipulate one thing. Lead pipes and lead in Newark's water predate your term in office. But with 15,000 households living 16 ounces at a time, wondering every day where and how they're going to get clean water, why hasn't the state stepped in? Why no distribution? Why hasn't the National Guard been called out?
Brian, it's good to be on. The state has stepped in a big way, and I appreciate all the faith leaders, corporations, and others who have stepped up to offer water and contributed water. The state has stepped up for 70,000 cases. So the fact of the matter is, water is being distributed every day. It's not 2 cases. In fact, it's now 4 cases in 4 different locations in Newark. There were no lines in the hot sun today. We checked in each of these locations. If you're disabled, infirmed, or elderly, the water is coming to you. And by the way, the bigger picture is lead service lines is not just a Newark problem. It's not just a New Jersey problem. It's an American problem. Newark, for many, many years, was on a testing regime with the federal government, and there were no evidence of lead exceedance. This began a couple of years ago, and there have been a series of methodical steps that Newark has taken, including a 10-year program to replace all the lead service lines in the state, changing chemicals to flush through the system, which looks like it'll have some positive outcomes, I hope sooner than later. As you mentioned, passing out filters. And all of the recent challenges have been based on 3 data points, 3 different households. Each household saw the lead come down, but 2 of them didn't see it come down far enough. So in an abundance of caution, we have gone aggressively to distributing bottled water, opening up testing to, I believe, many hundreds of different data points, and in particular for women who are pregnant, nursing, children under the age of 6, the very elderly. We strongly ask that they use only bottled water to cook, to drink. There's no bathing exposure. That's not an issue. But the fact of the matter is many, many steps have been taken by Newark. The state has been with them at every step of the way, and we will continue to be.
Well, let me put it this way. You got little kids growing up in Newark being tested for lead exposure and in danger of brain damage, on top of being born with just about every disadvantage we can name. Do you believe this is a public health crisis?
It's a public health challenge for sure. I also want to make sure folks realize that for all the challenges, Brian, you just outlined, Newark is a city on the rise under a terrific mayor, Ras Baraka. And I think any insinuation that we're dealing with Newark differently than we would with some other community has no basis whatsoever. In fact, I say up and down the state, as Newark goes, so goes New Jersey. whether it's dealing with this lead pipe challenge or the environment or public safety or education, whatever it may be. We also, interestingly enough, had a summit in Essex County yesterday, hosted by the county executive. And there were a number of communities in that summit, Newark most importantly. But if you looked at Belleville and Bloomfield and Nutley and Hillside and Pequannock, you saw a rainbow of different dimensions in those communities. So this notion that we're doing something differently in Newark that we wouldn't do elsewhere is completely baseless. As Newark goes, so goes New Jersey.
Well, let me try that again. We're talking to you from your home in Middletown. You go out your driveway down Route 35 about 2 miles, and I grew up behind what used to be the ShopRite Food Market at the New Monmouth Road intersection. So we share a town, my hometown, your current residents. Are you telling me that the folks who are well off in Middletown would be waking up all of these mornings trying to have to scrounge for 16 ounces at a time of clean water for cooking and drinking and all of their daily needs, the same as the folks in Newark are?
Brian, I'm saying unequivocally, we would handle Middletown. We had a summit of about 6 months ago of communities up and down the state with lead service line exposure. You had urban communities, suburban, and rural communities. The notion of the 10-year program that the state is supporting meaningfully to replace all the lead lines in Newark is something we would do in other communities. The notion of switching chemicals. A key part of this is when the right chemicals run through the pipes,
that's right.
They're a prophylactic, and they prevent the lead from leaching. We do nothing different in Middletown than we're doing in Newark. I promise you that. The other comment I would make is this is an American crisis. We have a big water infrastructure crisis, and we need the federal government to step up in a big way. Our congressional delegation has been leading on this, but we need a national water infrastructure renaissance, and I hope that's one good result that comes from this.
Well, let's talk also about optics, because optics can also speak for real life in this case. You've got churches who do take it upon themselves to get water to folks in senior citizens high-rises who can't afford water and can't come down in the elevator to get it. You've got Flint, Michigan sending water to Newark, New Jersey, which can't look good for all the echoes of that water crisis.
Listen, Flint's situation was a very different one, with all due respect. We have to make sure we understand the facts here. The source of water in Flint had lead exposure in it. That is not the case in New Jersey. The Pequannock source has been deemed by the DEP in our state, by the EPA, as being completely clean of lead. It's the lead service lines that are being in the process of being replaced. If folks are having trouble figuring out how to get water, please, I beg of them to call 973-733-6303. 973-733-6303. It's a one-stop shop. And again, we've increased with the city has, within the past 24 hours, increased the give-outs of water to 4 cases of bottled water. Remember, this is now just for drinking and cooking. This is not for bathing. There's no exposure in bathing. So, as I said, I believe are we batting 1,000? Nobody ever does. But are we trying to get out ahead of this? You betcha. And we're trying to balance an abundance of caution on the one hand, while recognizing on the other, these are 3 data points, and we don't want to panic people beyond any natural reason to. We're now testing aggressively. I hope sooner than later, in a matter of, I hope, a couple of weeks, we'll have enough data points to be able to draw broader conclusions. Were the filters faulty, or were they okay? Was it just those homes? Is there a particular chemical that we need to add into the mix, et cetera? So I do just say to folks, bear with us. That's the number to call. And God willing, we'll have a much clearer sense of the way forward in the next few weeks.
And that's your message to the people living 16 ounces at a time.
Well, it's not 16 ounces at a time, Brian. It's 4 cases of water. And by the way, if you can't come physically to get the water, and we checked all 4 distribution centers today, there were only a small lines when the distribution centers opened. There was no meaningful lines or waits for people to come there. So there's none of this notion of people standing around the blocks waiting for the water. And if that were to happen, by the way, we got a lot more water and a lot more manpower that we can deploy. And we're watching this, as you can imagine. We're not spiking any footballs here. We're monitoring this not just day to day, but frankly, hour to hour. And again, if you can't get out to get water, if you're not sure whether or not your home is in a lead service line, no problem, 973-733-6303.
Let me say what I said at the outset. First of all, thank you for honoring your commitment and coming on. Secondly, lead pipes and lead water issue in New Jersey predated your time in office, yet this is a crisis that has been placed directly in your lap, and we appreciate you coming on to talk about it. The governor of the state of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, joining us tonight from Middletown.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.